back to another edition of Virtual Academy here. Um, Today we're going to be taking a look at a number of things for digital media, web design, and all of that. Before I get started, just a quick reminder on a few of the resources here so that we're continuing communication and we know that for sure that you're getting all the information that you need. The first thing that I would remind you of is we are now transitioning from using like Google Hangouts to Google Meet. If you haven't seen that, this is what it looks like. Let me send that on over here. And there we go. Okay, so here's what Google Meet looks like. When you get there, right away you can create a meeting and then you can invite people to that meeting. So here's a meeting that I've already created as an example. Now I can go join now. And then from there I can go ahead and add people in there. So I can start adding different people. And you can see I've added some of the people in that I've already communicated with. But that's a great way to go through and work through stuff together so that we are actually seeing each other's screens. So one of the features that I would show you is the Present Now feature, and that's down in the right hand corner here. So down here, that allows me to see your screen or for you to see my screen. So if you're struggling in digital media too and you need me to help you out with Unity and we got to look at your project, then I can see your screen or you can see my screen and I can walk you through steps, whichever. They both work out really well. So I wanted to just point that out again, that we're using that as one of our features. The other thing that I want to point out is this. Obviously, I've been using Red Hawk Media to deliver the live content. Each day, I am updating the Virtual Academy playlist, which you can see is the very first playlist when you get onto Red Hawk Media on YouTube. And each day I add those in. I'm also adding those in on Schoology so that you can see them daily in Schoology. Now I haven't posted today's embed code on there yet, but I will post it as soon as I'm done streaming here. Now there are times in different classes that I am referencing some of the stuff that's in the description. So if I head over here, and I'm going to pause that because it's like a double whammy here. If I'm saying that I've got stuff posted in the description, if you go to show more, you can see Digital Media 2. This is all about that swapping animations that we talked about yesterday. And here is the link to the exact tutorial. So if you're not picking up some of the skills that we're doing right now on the fly, which I am moving pretty quickly through, you can always follow up with these tutorials and they will walk you through more slowly. You'll be able to pause, go back and forth, all of that stuff, and see it in more detail that's specific to whatever skill we're working on. Today I'll make the reference to check the description. There's going to be links in there for Digital Media 2 for tweaking animations, and then there's going to be a link in there for Digital Media 1 for GarageBand Basics. So just kind of a quick preview. I'm sorry for the talkie here. We will get on to what it is that we are doing. Let me go ahead and close these tabs so I'm not taxing my system here. And yeah, let's get out of this and minimize. And that takes us over to Unity. Okay, so I'm trying out these new overlays. You'll have to let me know if they work or not, or if they're blocking too much information. Let me send that over here. Digital Media 2. All right, excellent. And Unity. Okay, so with Unity, yesterday we worked on adding animations to our character. And those animations that we replaced so far is we went in and we replaced idle. And then we put running, or if you have a walking animation, you can put that in, and then a running animation. And many of you have already swapped out the jumping animation as well. Okay, now one of the things that I would point out is that on our Robot Boy character, originally they had a crouch that was on there as well. And you could use control and you could crouch down your character, and then while you're holding control, you could actually do a crouching walk as well. We're going to switch this out. If you have access to this, if you have a slide animation, you could use crouch to your benefit here. Here's what I mean. I can select crouch, and you can see that I've got a sliding animation down here. So I've got these 9 animations that go along with that. And just like we showed yesterday, I would take these and I would drag them into my hierarchy, and it'll create an animation that I can name. Now I've already done that. I've already created a slide animation. You can see that over here. This is what the animations look like again. So I've taken crouch and I've already dragged on my slide animation. So I grabbed the slide and then dragged it right up into my inspector here, and you can see it's now up there. So it no longer says Robot Boy Crouch or whatever it said before. Okay, so I've got the slide feature in there. Now, if I go over to Unity and I check this out, excuse me, and we take a look, all right, you can see a little bit of the characters here. Now, I'll explain where I got this stuff from here in a little bit, because this is obviously a nice sprite set. It's free. It's one of the things that's accessible on the asset store. And you can see I've got already a key that I'm working on for future lessons here. It may be coins, it may be a key. And I can run and I can jump, and he's smoothly moving around, interacting with those platforms. And he's got his jump animation, and he's got his running and the idle. Now, if I hold control, you can see that he's doing the sliding thing. Now, then he goes into the robot crouching walk thing. He's kind of confused as to what to do here. So that's one of the things that I have to clear up with the slide animation. Also, you may notice that he is sliding, but he is hovering off the ground. And sometimes our animations do not fit exactly the way that they're designed. So we have to make little changes on them, which is pretty easy to do. This is back to a little bit of our Photoshop experience here. So I'm going to hop out of play mode. And you always hop out of play mode whenever you're making big changes here. One, it keeps the changes, and two, it's just more likely to properly do it and save properly. So first off, what I would point out here, which I just talked with somebody online actually, we did a Google Meet, kind of looked at their character, and they were kind of wondering why their character was floating in the middle of their platform. Well, one of the things you may have noticed is that your robot sprites were a lot smaller than these sprites are. And because of that, we have to make a few adjustments. So if I go back over to my scene here, and I click on Robot Boy, all right, and I click on my circle collider and edit it, I can hop in here, and I have already changed this up so that it matches my new sprite. If you haven't done this yet, though, you've got a tiny circle collider, tiny box collider, and those are not interacting with the world the way that you want. So the way you go about that is you just find the circle collider. First, you select your character, scroll down to here's my box collider, and here is my circle collider. And I can go edit collider. And then once I click on that, there's little handles that pop up there, and I can go ahead and change that around. Now, if I want to edit my box collider, same thing. I click the button on that, zoom in on him here, and now I can grab these anchor points and I can move those around. Okay, and usually you match the circle up with the bottom of his feet, and you match up the top of the rectangle with this, and they overlap smoothly on the sides so that there's not any weird angles that might catch on platforms and things like that, because that's some of the glitchiness that you run into some of the games. Okay, so that's all set. Now, one other thing that you might want to check into a little bit, just to make sure that your character's working the way that you expect them to. If you drop down the character Robot Boy thing here, you'll notice that there's a ground check and a ceiling check that's in there. And these are key pieces for your character to know when they are actually on the ground and when they are hitting the ceiling. So if I go to the ground check, select that, and I go to my move tool, okay, right away I can take a look here, and I can make sure that this is right between his feet here and even with the bottom of his feet, because that's where we want the ground check to actually happen. Same thing with the ceiling check. If I click on that, okay, again, I put it right at the top of his hat here, kind of in the middle, so that I know that he's actually hitting the ceiling at that point. Okay? And they are just checks to make sure that he's actually on the ground. And that's all stuff that's actually in the scripting that we don't have to worry about. We just have to make sure that they're placed properly. So now our character's all set up with that stuff. I mentioned the slide animation and how he's floating off the ground. So let's go ahead and fix that. That's going to bring me back to my sprites. So I'm going to work with my slide 0 all the way through to the end of them. And I'm going to highlight those. And once they're highlighted, I'm going to go ahead and go over to my inspector here. And you can see it tells me the information about what these sprites are. And you can see also that there is, oh, where is that here? Advanced. Let me see if it's in there. Input, bilinear, no. I may have to do them individually, which is a little irritating, but that's okay. I'm going to click just one of them. I'm going to click the first one, figure out what the setting is, and then I'm going to apply that to all of them. So I click just slide 0. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to my sprite editor. Okay, and mesh type. Once I click the sprite editor, we get this little window that pops up, which is the sprite editor window. And you can see down here that there is a pivot that is in the center of my sprite. And what that's doing is that's actually keeping me from hitting the ground or looking like I'm on the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this and go to custom, and then I'm going to take the Y value here, and I'm going to increase it actually, because I believe in game design it's reversed from what you're used to. So I'm going to try 0.6 here and see if that looks a little bit better. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on that. And then I also have to always hit apply at the top of the sprite editor. Okay, and now that has been all set for that sprite. Now if I click to the next sprite here, you can see there's slide 001. I go ahead and I do that same thing, custom, and I'm going to go ahead and put this down to 0.6, and then I'm going to get out of there and apply. Okay, and I go right through the line here, adjusting all these until he's actually on the ground where he needs to be. Now, when I make changes here in these sprites, they automatically will go into the animation that I've already created, because it's always referencing these sprites. So if I go in here and I do more of these, sorry for the tediousness of this, it used to be that you could select all of them and then you could apply those changes to all of them. Perhaps it's still like that, but I'm not seeing where. And if you forget to apply, it'll remind you here. And now on this one, we go to custom and 0.6. Okay, and I make those changes all the way through. Now, there's the first half of slide. I should be able to see some kind of difference here to see if I'm going in the right direction or not. So I'm going to go ahead and close my sprite editor and apply. There we go. And I'm going to hop into play mode. And right now I've got it maximizing on play. That's why it's going to full screen here. Okay, and when I hit control, oh yeah, you can see him kind of jumping up and down there. That's because the first half of the sprites I edited. Now, I did not probably put that down enough. Yep, I could probably put it to like 0.8 or 0.7, I mean, and then it'll actually bring it down enough so it looks like he's sitting on the ground. Okay, we've got a bunch of fun stuff planned up here in the future. This is a big part of just tweaking your animations. Once you get this stuff set and your character is kind of perfected, that's going to allow you to do all these other things that we're looking to do. Now, we still have one more problem that we want to fix here before we leave today, and that is, you noticed when I go into the slide mode, okay, and if I hold control long enough, he goes into that crouching walk thing. I don't want that. So I'm just going to go in and make some changes to my animator that are simple changes. I'm going to go to my character. Always have to have your character selected. Then I go to the animator, and you can see everything that's on there. And remember, scrolling on your scroll wheel on your mouse will zoom in and zoom out. And then if I need to drag this around, I hold Option, and then I can drag that around. Now, I know I'm going to get rid of this, so I'm literally going to click right on this, select it, and go delete. Okay? And now there is no transition from, let me get the right keys here, from crouch to crouch walk anymore. Okay? In fact, this is a little misleading now, so I'm just going to rename this so that I'm not confused in the future and call it slide. Okay? And that should be all updated, so now it's reflecting what's actually going on. Okay? Now, one other thing I did in here to kind of smooth stuff out on the animations and that, if you followed along a little bit yesterday, we deleted some of this stuff in here. If you need to add in a transition again, you can always right-click, and you can make the transition. And once you make that transition, you can connect it up to anything that you need to connect it up to. Okay, I've already got one going to jumping from any state, so that's why it's not going to give me that. Now, one other thing that I want is there are some parameters there that are set up. Now, this is like the logic that goes into allowing your character to do the stuff that he's supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. So on this transition, when I select that, you can see over in the conditions here, there are a few things here. One, obviously, if I'm going to the jumping animation, I want the ground condition to be false. Now, if you happen to delete this transition and it's like gone and there's no conditions in here, I can always go plus and add a condition in here. And then likewise, I can always select one and then I can get rid of it. Okay, but ground will be false when he is going to the jumping animation. One other thing that you might have to tweak too if you're recreating this transition like I had to, if you go to the settings on just this one, you may have this box checked. It may say can transition to self. You may see him like jumping and then re-jumping and doing all kinds of weird stuff. We're going to uncheck that if you happen to do that the other day. Okay, now one last thing. Sometimes on animations you want them to loop over and over, like my idle animation. I just want him to idle back and forth and keep idling and not stopping. Okay, so this setting, when I double click on any of the animations, you will see that there is looping. Now I took the loop time off of jump because I want him to jump once, go through that full motion of jumping, and then be done. So I'm going to uncheck that loop time there. Okay, now after I uncheck that, just to show you that this is different on some of these other ones here. Let me see here. Here's my idle. If I double click on that, you can see that it has a loop time and we want that to be looping. All right, now a few other things. We've covered this transition. Now from the jumping, I want the character to be able to get back to idling. I want the character to get back to walking or running here. So I added these transitions in too. Again, I right clicked on the animation, make transition, and then I dragged it to the one that I want to go to. Now this has a little bit different rules to it, different conditions. So when I select this, and now I look at it over in the inspector here, okay, you can see that it has ground conditions too, but when the ground is true, as in it is touching the ground, it will go to that idle animation. It'll automatically make that transition. Okay. One other thing that I did to kind of speed it up so that it's more responsive too, like a platformer game should be, I took off the exit time and I also set the transition duration to 0. I did that for both of the transitions from jumping to idling and then jumping to walking. Okay, which is the other one that you can see here, and that has the same set of rules on it, except there's one additional one because I'm not going to a standstill for my jump, I'm going to a walking motion. So the way that my character knows they're walking is there is a speed condition. So the ground is true, obviously, because we've landed, and now if the speed is greater than 0.01, that means that he's not idling, he's moving. Okay, which will transition them automatically to the walking animation. So just double check that you've got these things. And again, I didn't have exit time and I set the duration, transition duration to 0. And that just makes everything more snappy and responsive and smooth. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today for Digital Media 2 for the tweak animations. Now, as I said earlier, there is a link in the description below, so check that out. And that'll take you to the full like tweaking animation tutorial. If you want to see that more detail and go through it, you can. It's another resource that you can use just in case you missed anything here. Okay, excellent. I think that's pretty much it for digital media. That sums everything up. And let's hop out of here. And we're heading over to web design. Okay, and kick that over there. And the big thing that I wanted to point out for web design, and sorry, I'm going to have to open this up. Hopefully it does not crash. Photoshop, and there we go. Some of you have been have submitted your mock-ups at this point, okay? And your mock-ups have got a start. You already have met with me. You've been working on revisions for your mock-up, so you've got all that stuff going on here. The next step is obviously going to be that we're going to have to start coding this website. So for many of you, after you make your revisions, I'm just going to take this one because we've seen it before and open it up. This is a great place to kind of plan my attack for what my coding might look like. And the way that I can do that here is I'm going to use the rectangle tool. And I'm just going to kind of lay out my div containers to get kind of smart about how I'm going to organize this. So for instance, let's grab the rectangle tool. Let's make sure that the fill is actually set to transparent. Okay, and then I'm going to put the stroke weight up, and let's go with a color here, and let's use a brighter color so that we can see The yellow is really going to stand out on this one here. So I'm going to use that and okay. And let's see here, there's one other thing. I might want this to be a little bit thicker. So I'm going to up that so that I can actually see this as I do that. Let's make it even a little bit thicker than that. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a go here. So one of the div containers that I know I'm going to have here is I know I'm going to have this full-size div container. Okay, so that's one of them. Okay, another one that I know I'm going to have too, let's go ahead and create another layer here. I'm going to have a div container that's going to be up here. Okay, and I'm just basically planning my layout. Now, if this is something that might be changeable in the future, okay, I might have a div container that's here as well. Okay, and I talked to this individual as well, saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had a little bit of social media? And now I've got kind of my div containers laid out. Now some of these I may have to break down into smaller ones, but that's all set. Now I can also I can go a little bit further with this, and I can start labeling some of this stuff. So let's go ahead and grab our text here, and we're just going to go with the basic Arial font, something that we can read easily. And let's see here. Oh, actually that's kind of fun. There we go. And let's set that to yellow as well so we can see what's going on here. And there we go, and okay. And now I'm just going to click in here, and I'm going to start naming my div containers so that I can plan those out too. So maybe this first one is the super container. Okay, and I can take that and then move that around so that that's organized. Here's my super container. Now I'm just going to duplicate that. I'm just going to go Command J, and then I'm going to take the new one and I'm going to move that over here. And let's go ahead and rename that. And let's say nav or navigation, however you want to name that. Okay, and then let's get out of there. Boom. And let's duplicate that. And now we're going to take that and move that over to here and just start laying out all those div containers. Okay, so you're welcome, Spencer. But it should give you a pretty good idea of what we've got going on. Here's what it looks like a little bit closer, sorry, so that you can see what that looks like. And that's kind of the idea here. Now from here, I've got my planning done, and I'm ready to start heading into that coding. So I just basically reverse wireframed this so that I know all my div containers and where they're going to be and how they're aligned, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, excellent. So it's just the next steps here. There are a few of you that I still need to meet with, so make sure that you contact me so we can do a Google Meetup, and then we can talk and get all that stuff set. Okay, moving on. Let's minimize that, and that takes us on to game design here. And let me send that on over. And the big thing that I want to do here today for game design is I want to show you another walkthrough. I think it's good that you see other student examples here. And this one is Compliments of Gus. And I'm going to send this over and just take a look here. And you can see all of the awesome things that he's got going on here. Okay. So he created this idea that you could grappling hook or use a grappling hook to swing from one thing to another. Now, he's got kill zones all over that restart the level. He's also got crouching animation, so he's got grappling hook. Now, that little diamond there is a checkpoint, and he just tested that out, showing me that that works properly. Okay? Lots of cool stuff going on in this game. He's got a great level layout. There's lots of incentives. There's lots of different things that you can interact with here. You got the grappling hooks, obviously. Lots of different ways to use those, too, which is kind of fun. Okay, he just got another checkpoint showing me that that works properly as well. This needs like some epic music to it. Some like adventure music. There we go. Excellent. We'll talk music in the coming days here. So now he's dropping all the way down to a whole nother part of the level. It's pretty well designed, pretty well laid out. You got another checkpoint. Can't go that way. All right, excellent. Moving on. This part takes a little while to get through because it's a little bit more challenging coming up here. Okay, getting another checkpoint. Now he's going to show me, hey, this works. Jump on the spikes. And it resets right to that checkpoint. So that goes back to that previous it goes back to the, ooh, remind me later. All right, it goes back to that previous tutorial of the game master, the checkpoints, and restarts. And again, all of that stuff is on the on Schoology if you want to access it. Gus worked on this quite a bit to get this working here, and we went back and forth on quite a few emails too to make sure that it was working with his character. And he got most of this information off of the Brackies website. He went through a tutorial to start with his character, and then he used another tutorial to do the whole grappling hook thing, which you can see you can use that in a lot of different ways here. That's pretty slick. He's got a boss here. So obviously he's going to have to come up with some stuff here to like interact with the boss. Another checkpoint. And then I'm not sure what this thing is, but all of a sudden he gets this thing. Okay. And now he can interact here. Look at this. He's got this dash animation. So a whole nother functionality, a little bit of an incentive plugged in there, something that you can pick up and actually use. Okay, another checkpoint. He falls off, and then he's going on. Okay, and this goes on for a little while longer here. It's a great level. He did an awesome job with this. Obviously spent a lot of time with the different features, and you can see how he's working that dash into the level layout now. You need to have that in order to move on in the level, which is pretty sweet. Awesome. So that's game design here in a nutshell. I want you to make sure that you are actually sending your walkthrough in. I have 4 walkthroughs at this point, and there are many more of you that need to get that in before the end of the week here. Again, just screen record like Gus did here and send that on over. And that should pretty much wrap it up for game design. If you have individual questions, make sure that you ask me, and we'll go through stuff on Google Meet. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this layer here and put this back over to where we need to be, and that takes me to video production, which I'm going to use this layout today, and send. Sorry, a lot of talking to myself here. So video production 2 is the new speed, and we are taking a look at Adobe Premiere. As promised, we've been working on our cooking videos, and you have been editing actually in Adobe Premiere. And we went through the first couple days, we went through a lot of basics. So if you need to go back and look at that, please do. That covers a lot of the stuff that you would want to do, and even more than that. So go back, access those last couple days of tutorials, and take a look at it. Today is all about exporting though. This project is due on Friday by midnight. So if you get done between today or tomorrow, you can export this out of there. So Premiere. Okay, let me put this up to full screen so we can see what's going on. I have my timeline all done, let's say, and I'm ready to export. The big thing is make sure, and this kind of stumped me for a little while what was going on, make sure that you have the sequence area down here selected, okay, so that you can interact with this for not only checking the settings, which is the first thing we're going to do, but also exporting. So a lot of you shot your cooking videos with a variety of different phones. And some of you may have shot in 1080, and some of you may have shot in 4K. This is the best way for you to find out so that you export this properly. So I just selected my sequence by clicking down here. I'm going to go all the way to the top here, and I'm going to go to my sequence menu, and I'm going to go to the sequence settings. Now what this is going to do is this is going to tell me that my sequence right now is set up at 1920 by 1080, and you can see the frame rate that it's going at. Okay, and you can also see what editing mode I'm in and all that stuff, but we don't need to know any of that. Okay, so again, 1920 by 1080 and 29.97 for the frame rate. I'm going to cancel out of that because now that I know this, I can make sure that my export settings are proper. So I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to go down the way here to Export. And just like Final Cut Pro, I'm exporting media. So I go ahead and click on that. That's going to prompt this whole different export settings window to come up here. And a few of the things that I want to do, because we want to keep this video size down, we want to keep it manageable, and we want to make it easy to upload actually to Schoology, which is where your assignment is posted. Okay, so if we hop in here, the first thing I'm going to have you change is I'm going to make sure that you change the format to H.264. Excuse me. So H.264 is selected, and that's going to put it into a smaller codec so it's easy to turn in. Same thing as what we usually use in Final Cut Pro. And the preset, you can go in here, and for the preset, I'm just going to scroll down. And the beauty is they've got these set up for all the different things that you may post to, whether it's Twitter, Vimeo, and we got YouTube. So I'm going to go down to YouTube 1080p Full HD because my setting is 1920 by 1080. Now if you shot yours in 4K, then you're going to want to go with the 2160 here. Okay, and 1080. Go ahead and select that. And now from there, I really don't have to do anything else. Everything is all set. I do one more thing so that you can actually find this. Where it says output name up here, and it's got the blue text, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to choose where I want to save this to. So I'm just going to very quickly say, okay, test export. Okay, and this time I'm going to make sure I change the where because it puts it into this Adobe folder that you would never find. Okay, and I'm going to switch it up right to my desktop, and then I'm going to click save. You can see that's all updated here. And then final step, go to the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and click export. I'm not going to do that now because my system will probably crash here because of all the streaming processing going on in the background. And that's basically it in a nutshell here. So that you can get this out of here. Let me cancel out of that. If you have any questions on Adobe Premiere, make sure that you shoot me some kind of message somewhere, whether it's on Gmail, Schoology, wherever. There are a number of you that I need to hear from that I haven't heard from in a while. So make sure that you contact me and get that information to me. Okay, excellent. That is going to wrap up Video Production 2, which takes us off to digital media. Okay, this is where, when could I buy? Oh, all right, excellent. So we're going to go ahead and just do a couple quick things here. And blah, 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 blah. All right, so now, next thing is we got digital media. Just checking if we got any questions here. And now from there, let me send this over. We are talking GarageBand. Okay, as I mentioned yesterday, if you don't have GarageBand on your laptop yet, you're going to hop into self-service. Okay, and in self-service, you're going to go to GarageBand, and this is the only one that you need right now. And you should be able to open that and download it and all that good stuff. And then you'll be all set once that's downloaded. Okay, it does take a little while. It's a little bit of a beefy program because it has a lot of music loops that follow it, so just be patient and let it do its thing. One other thing that I would point out during this time of virtual learning here is it would be worth your while to be able to keep track of your hard drive and how much space is left on it. So if you have the icon, the Macintosh hard drive icon on your desktop, you can right click on this at any time, go get info, okay? And then from there, it always puts it way over to the far left side here. So I'm going to drag this over so we can see what's going on, okay? And then what you can do is you can hop in here and you can see how much available space you actually have. So right now you can see I've got quite a bit of available space, but your student laptops are quite a bit smaller. And if you're trying to download something, so I had Dawson contact me, say, hey, I can't download this thing. It just keeps saying executing, 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 and he's trying to download something from self-service. Well, I would venture to guess that he probably just doesn't have enough space available to download it. So going in and clearing out all of the stuff that you don't regularly need, you know, is a good thing to learn how to do during this time. Okay, so anything extra that you have on your desktop or anywhere else that you don't need, make sure you take care of that. Okay, so digital media, sorry. That was a roundabout way of getting you guys all prepped for this. Here's where we're at. Okay, in GarageBand, bring this up here. This is the starting point for everything that we're going to look at. Let me just size this up, okay? When you first open GarageBand, it's going to allow you to click a new project. After you create your first project, it's always going to open up to that project first, and then you're always going to go to File and then New Project. And you can see I've got the New Project option over here, okay, and then I've got my empty project. For the duration of what we're doing, we're going to work in empty projects. We're always going to start there. So I'm going to make sure that that's selected, and then I'm going to just go Choose, okay, and this is how it pops up to begin with. So when we get into GarageBand, it wants to know, like, what is your purpose for it? Like, what are you using it for? Are you going to be recording stuff? Are you doing podcasting? Are you going to hook up your guitar and start recording riffs? Are you a drummer? Do you want to use the drummer stuff? All of that. To begin with, the one that kind of leaves us with the least amount of clutter to begin with is the microphone one. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click on that. And you can see it creates my project here. Okay, and now if you're not seeing some of these windows, all right, I can put these down. There it is in its most basic form here. And then I've got this side drawer here, which opens up this whole side panel. And these are settings that I can eventually put onto loops. And then I have my equalizer here as well that gives me the controls, so I can go in and EQ different things here. That'll allow me to go in and adjust the sound, the way the sound is actually coming out. So your lows, your mids, your highs, as you can see down here, there's a lot of different things that you can plug in there, which we'll talk about in the future. But right now, what you can see is that the audio one, by default, because it was a microphone, it's picking me up. It's actually using my built-in microphone right now that's on my iMac, and it's picking me up. So from your laptop, it'll use your laptop microphone, and it'll pick you up from there. Now, we're not going to start off with any kind of recording right away here. We're going to start off with the basics. I know many of you have been on the iPad version of this, which is very pre-made. Like, you can click on all of the loops and kind of time them out. My son loves it. He does a lot of music on there. Yeah. So first thing, just to kind of get this set up for working here, I'm going to, right away out of the gates, I am going to click these two things and get them out of the way. We're not recording for a band. We don't need a 4 count, like a count in, you know, like 2, 3, 4. Don't need that, and I don't need the metronome right now. Okay, if you are a band-oriented person, these might be useful to you. However, like many of us, myself included, I have no music background whatsoever. Okay, I can barely sight read music when I was in choir. So this gives you an idea. If you're more musically inclined, you can use some of these tools, which is okay. But you don't need to be musically inclined. So I go ahead and uncheck those things. Next step, which is what you're going to be most interested in, and this is where the biggest part of the experimentation comes in with GarageBand, is we're going to head over to the far right here, and I'm going to zoom in there. And you can see there's 3 different icons. The one that I'm interested in is the loop. And this is what makes GarageBand so popular and makes it so user-friendly for those of us that are not musically inclined. I can go ahead and click on the loops, and then right away it's going to bring up a bunch of different loops here. Now, if I want to, I can go out, I can look by instrument, I can look by genre, and then if there's descriptors on some of these, which you would be adding on, you could use those too. Or if you have some favorites that you've checked, you can always check those too and add them into your favorites, and they show up in different places. You can see I haven't marked a lot of them here. I haven't used GarageBand a lot on this machine. So here's what we can do. We can start off by instrument here and do some basics. So when I go instrument, the very first thing that I might think of is I might need some percussion, some drums, background. Okay, and you can see there's a lot of stuff in here. You may not have all of the loops right out of the gate. As soon as I get it cleared that we can use that loop download and self-service, you'll be able to grab a lot more loops here. So kind of use the ones that are downloaded and available here. Okay, and then if I scroll down, I mean, there's a load of stuff here. And any one of them, I can click on them and preview them. And there are, by genre, a lot of different things. So culturally, there's a lot of stuff that's in here too. Oh, that sounds like fun. Okay, and there are a load of them. Okay, this takes me right back to Kung Fu Panda, when they're hiding in the dragon. But I can go ahead and test all these out. And let's find... Ooh. Nice. Oh, this is kind of spacey. Excellent. If you know the Rolling Stones, please allow me to introduce myself. Okay. So we got a bunch of stuff. Now, after you find one that you like here, I'm going to go ahead and pause this. You can use the spacebar at any time to pause. And I can go down and let's go with something here. Wow, I have quite a few loops in here. Sorry. Percussion groove. Alright, once I find one that I like, I'm going to go ahead and drag it out here. Okay, so just click and drag. And now you can see that right away it created its own track for this, which is okay. And I'm going to drag it right back to the beginning. And then here's the fun part about the loops. Okay, we have the loop. I can always take the playhead, which is this right here. And if I click up in this area, I can drag that along very quickly. Also, if I'm way down at the end of my timeline, I can always use the back button here. And that takes me back to the very beginning, which is helpful when the timeline gets longer down the road. Now, before we get going too far, very quickly, I'm just going to change up my time. I'm going to go to this little drop down here, and instead of beats and project or beats and time, I'm just going to go with time, because that's the requirement that a lot of our assignments are going to have. Like for today, 3 to 4 tracks, 1 minute, all mixed together properly, yeah. And these are the tracks. Track 1, track 2, and then if I add on more tracks, which I can go plus sign here, and add on another track. Let's just say I'm adding on another microphone. Okay, you can see there's another track that I just added on. At any time, if I want to download or delete a track, I can always click on any one of these and then hit the delete key on the keyboard and it's gone. Okay, excellent. So we're all ready to go, and now I can play. Nice. Okay, and from here, fun part about loops, the top right corner, I can grab a hold of this and I can drag this out. Now, almost, I shouldn't say almost, a lot of the loops are set up to do this, so that I can drag them out like this. Some of the loops that I'm going to put in will not have this little curly Q thing at the top right, and they won't allow me to like actually stretch this out. Now, let's say I put this in, but I don't really want the whole loop in there. I may want to end it right there. I can go to the bottom right, and I can actually drag this back here to shorten that up. So I don't have to use the full loop if I don't want to. But again, if I take that and then drag that out for however many, beats that I want, or however many seconds, I can go ahead and do that. Now we got some percussion in there. I go back over to my loops, and now I can work on grabbing some. Let's reset my instrument, and let's go to some guitar. Okay, and ooh, yes. Okay, Turkish Spice it is. Let's bring it in here. Now it'll automatically create a new track for me. I'm going to go ahead and drag this out. This is probably not going to work it all together, so we're going to give it a go. Surprisingly, not too bad. Now, these two are kind of fighting each other right now. Like one is really loud and the other one is a little bit softer. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn up the volume on this particular track here. And I'm going to bring that up a little bit, and I'm going to bring this one down, which seems to be quite a bit louder. Okay, and maybe a little bit more. And then I can go ahead and try this out again. Yeah, there we go, 2 tracks. You got to add 2 more, you got to mix it together. What we're doing is we're going for a full 60 seconds. Now, at any time, you can always grab more. Yes, and you can grab more tracks, and you can add them right in here. So I can add in different loops into the same track. You just have to be careful, because if you take these and you go like this and overlap them, it will overwrite the other loop. Okay, that loop is now gone. Okay, so kind of keep track of that. I'm just gonna Command Z, and that'll take me back. So you can mix up the loops however you need. 3 to 4 tracks, all mixed together, 60 seconds, see what you can come up with. The assignment is created on Schoology. Go ahead and put that together and then get that uploaded there. The one thing that you will need to know I'm actually going to show you tomorrow. So work on putting your track together, come up with some fun stuff. Big thing is just explore the loops here and see what all is in there. And if you have any questions, make sure that you shoot them my way, and we will get that in there. Yeah, and that should be pretty much it for today. Excellent. That takes us to the end here. I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to say, well, thanks for joining us here. And, if you do need any help with anything, make sure that you communicate that. Schoology, Gmail, we can Google Meet, whatever it is, we can go through those things. So until next time, stay safe.